Hello, friends. I'm so glad you're here. Sometimes after a long day, it's nice to slow down and settle into a cozy spot where we can share stories together. This is a special place where bedtime stories help us unwind, spark our imaginations, and gently guide us into sweet dreams. Each night, we'll go on an adventure. Some will be fun, some a little mysterious, but all of them will be told with care, just for you. So grab your favorite blanket, get nice and comfy, and let's enjoy a story together. It's a wonderful way to end the day, isn't it? I'm so happy you're here with me. The Forest of Echoes by SHONNA in New York. On the edge of the world lay the Forest of Echoes, a place where whispers traveled on the wind and forgotten dreams hid beneath ancient roots. The villagers of Havensbrook dared not enter the forest. They told tales of spirits who lured travelers with illusions and songs of lost memories. But for Ashara, a young woman with a heart full of unanswered questions, the forest's call was irresistible. Ashara had always felt out of place in Havensbrook. Her mother, a seer, died when Ashara was a child, leaving behind only a silver pendant etched with a crescent moon. Her father had tried to raise her as a farmer, but Ashara's heart burned for something more, something she could not name. When strange dreams began to trouble her sleep, dreams of a white stag in a tree glowing with blue light, she knew the answer lay within the Forest of Echoes. One misty dawn, Ashara slipped out of her cottage, the silver pendant resting against her chest. She carried only a small pack, a flask of water, and her mother's walking staff, which felt oddly comforting in her grip. With every step into the forest, the air thickened with a scent of moss and ancient wood, and the trees seemed to hum with a low, rhythmic song. It was a song of longing, as though the forest remembered something it could not quite grasp. The path twisted and blurred, as though the forest itself was alive and shifting. Yet Ashara pressed on, feeling an invisible thread tugging at her soul. As she walked deeper, she heard voices, a child's laugh, her mother's lullabies, the soft murmur of a breeze through the fields she once tended. The sounds beckoned, tempting her to stray from the path. But Ashara closed her eyes and clutched the crescent pendant. Stay on the path, she reminded herself. The answers are ahead. After hours, perhaps days, of walking, Ashara emerged into a clearing bathed in twilight. At the center stood the tree from her dreams, glowing softly with ethereal blue light. Beneath its branches rested the white stag, its silver antlers gleaming under the otherworldly light. The stag lifted its head and locked eyes with her, and in that gaze, Ashara saw both recognition and sorrow, as if it had been waiting for her all along. "You've come far," a soft voice said, as clear as a bell through the mist. Ashara turned to find a woman standing by the tree, draped in robes of woven moonlight. Her eyes shimmered like stars, and her hair flowed as if caught in an eternal breeze. There was something familiar about her, a warmth that reminded Ashara of the mother she barely remembered. "Who are you?" Ashara whispered, feeling her heart tighten with both awe and fear. "I am your mother," the woman said gently, or what remains of her spirit. The forest holds echoes of souls who sought wisdom beyond the world of men. I stayed behind, hoping you would find your way to me." Tears blurred Ashara's vision, but she shook her head. "Why did you leave? Why didn't you take me with you?" Her mother's spirit smiled sadly. "Some paths we must walk alone, my child. I sought knowledge too great for any one lifetime, and the forest gave me its gifts at a cost. But now you have a choice. You can stay, take my place beneath the tree, and unlock the secrets of the forest. Or you can return to the world, carrying the light of what you've learned with you." Ashara's heart pounded. The forest whispered promises of ancient wisdom, of becoming one with the rhythm of the earth, yet she thought of the people of Havensbrook, the quiet fields, and the simple joys she had taken for granted. Her place was not in a world of echoes. It was in the living world, where laughter could still be heard and love could still be shared. "I will return," Ashara said, her voice steady, "but I'll carry your light with me." Her mother's spirit placed a hand on her cheek. "Then take this." From the folds of her robes, she drew a shard of blue light, a piece of the glowing tree. "This will guide you when the path seems lost. Remember, Ashara, you are never truly alone. The echoes are always with you." The world shimmered, and the clearing began to fade like a dream, slipping from memory. Ashara felt herself falling. The light from the shard warmed her hand as it merged with the silver pendant around her neck. When she opened her eyes, she was standing at the edge of the forest, the morning sun rising over the distant hills. Havensbrook lay ahead, unchanged yet somehow different. As Ashara began her walk home, she felt the gentle hum of the forest still singing in her heart, a song of echoes, but also of beginnings. And with every step forward, Ashara knew she carried not only the wisdom of her mother, but also the strength to shape her own path. As Ashara approached the village, she noticed subtle changes she hadn't seen before. The scent of ripe apples in the orchard was sweeter, and the breeze carried not just warmth but a hint of purpose, as if every leaf and stone now held meaning. The pendant around her neck thrummed gently, as though the light within it was alive, responding to the world. When she reached her father's farm, she stood by the gate, his weathered face etched with lines of worry. His eyes widened when he saw her, and without hesitation, he pulled her into a tight embrace. "I thought you were lost," he murmured, voice heavy with relief. Ashara smiled against his shoulder. "I had to go, but I've come back." He pulled back to study her, his gaze softening, though a flicker of uncertainty remained. "You look different, lighter somehow." Ashara only nodded, knowing that words could not explain the transformation she felt inside. "I have stories to tell you, and a lot of work to do." Over the next few weeks, Ashara found herself viewing life in the village through new eyes. She planted seeds in the garden with reverence, speaking softly to the soil as though it could hear her. She spent time with the children, who were drawn to her presence like moths to light, captivated by her gentle tales of stags and glowing trees. The village healer invited Ashara to join her on rounds, sensing the shift in the young woman and eager to share her knowledge of herbs and remedies. But it was not just her hands that grew busy. Ashara's dreams deepened as well. Every night, the white stag returned, guiding her through endless landscapes of stars, rivers, and ancient ruins. Each dream was a lesson, and Ashara awoke each morning carrying fragments of wisdom that slipped easily into her waking life. One evening, she sat by the fire with her father. He leaned back in his chair and studied her closely. "Your mother would be proud," she said quietly. "You remind me of her more every day." She had that same spark, the sense that she was meant for something more. Ashara smiled softly, feeling the warmth of his words settle deep in her heart. "She's still with me," she whispered, touching the crescent pendant. "And she's with you too, always." Her father looked at her for a long moment, and though he did not respond, Ashara knew that he understood. Some things, like love and memory, did not need words to be felt. Months passed, and the seasons began to change. As autumn swept through Havensbrook, Ashara found herself drawn back to the edge of the forest. She stood at its border, listening to the hum of the trees, the echoes of spirits weaving through the branches. The forest felt familiar now, not a place to fear, but a place of possibility. And yet, Ashara knew that she had made the right choice to leave. The knowledge she sought was not hidden in ancient roots or distant echoes. It was here, in the life she lived every day, among the people she loved. One morning, as she wandered the woods just outside the forest, Ashara came across a young girl crying beneath a birch tree. The girl's knee was scraped, her little face twisted in pain. Without hesitation, Ashara knelt beside her, placing a hand over the wound. Warmth spread from her fingertips, and a faint blue light flickered from the pendant around her neck. The girl gasped as the wound began to close, the pain fading like a dream. "Are you a witch?" the girl whispered, eyes wide with awe. Ashara chuckled softly. "No, just someone who listens to the world." The girl smiled, wiping her tears, and scampered off toward the village, her laughter ringing through the trees. Ashara watched her go, feeling a quiet satisfaction bloom in her chest. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Ashara stood by her cottage window and looked toward the forest in the distance. The crescent moon rose high above the treetops, casting its silver light over the world. For the first time in her life, Ashara felt whole, not because she had all the answers, but because she understood the journey itself was the answer. The echoes of the forest had given her wisdom, but it was her choice to live with open hands and an open heart that gave her purpose. And so, with every sunrise, Ashara walked her path, not as a seeker, but as one who had found her place in the world. And the echoes followed her, soft as the wind, carrying the promise that she was never truly alone. The forest had given her its light. Now, it was hers to share. The end. Well, wasn't that a lovely story? I'm so glad we could share it together. Now, as the day comes to an end, it's time to rest and let all those wonderful thoughts and dreams carry you through the night. Remember, tomorrow is a new day, full of new adventures, and I'll be right here when you're ready for another story. Until then, take a deep breath, get cozy, and know that you are safe, you are loved, and you are important, just the way you are. Good night, and sleep well.